Yo, what's going on, man? This is your boy, Super Mario, man. Today, you're in the yo with your boy, man. Today, we're going to be talking about limiters and what it does to the dynamics in your mix or whatnot. This topic came about from a Fiverr client that wanted to know why his mixes were coming out sounding bad when he used a limiter. It was so much I wanted to explain in the chat message, but I decided, hey, man, I'll do a YouTube video for you to try to answer your question and see if we can investigate, why your mixes is coming out the way they're coming out or whatnot. Now, it could be a number of different things, but a limiter, if you tell me you have a limiter on there, you use that and your mixes are coming out bad, trust me, I went through that process. I used to fuck up mixes all the time and I was using a limiter. So I'm gonna share my experiences with you, show you guys some techniques, and hopefully this video will serve you well. Before we get up into this topic, man, I just want to say thank you to everyone that view the videos, like, comment, and show love and stuff like that. I appreciate y'all so much, man. It really feels good to see people, engaging and learning from my videos and stuff like that. Salute to you, man. Do me a favor, man. You know how to work that YouTube app. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you know how to work that YouTube app. Go ahead and shoot me a like, thumbs up, subscribe, and we keep that content rolling and stuff like that. Now let's get up in here and talk about limiters. Okay, a limiter, number one, ain't nothing but a glorified compressor. That's it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people think limiters does this magic thing of making their mixes louder, and you're dead wrong. You know what I'm saying? You're dead wrong or whatnot. A limiter ain't nothing but a glorified compressor with a unknown number of ratio. You know what I'm saying? So we don't know what the number is because we don't make the plug-in or whatnot, but it's a very, very high ratio, you know what I'm saying, that's built, you know what I'm saying, with that processor or the plug-in that's manufactured or whatnot. And you know what I'm saying, you may have fixed attack and release times, or you may have parameters where you can adjust the attack and release time. And of course you have your threshold, and you may have an automatic gain feature, or you may have to make up the gain on that limiter or whatnot. But whatever you have to use in order to use that limiter to do whatever you're going to do, you know what I'm saying, it's not intended to make your mixes loud. Okay. Now we got a track playing in the background. This is a session that I recorded, did the beat for, recorded, and you know what I'm saying, and mixed it and mastered or whatnot. So if you want to hear the finished product, make sure you go ahead and check out the song Ain't Real from your boy Super Mario. Yes, it's one of my songs, man. It's out on all digital streaming platforms, so make sure you go ahead and check that out. It's on the album called Battle Tested, and also it's a single that's out on all digital streaming platforms as well called Ain't Real. Okay, let's talk about a couple of things, man. We have this session here, right? Okay, and this session is basically, you know what I'm saying, vocals and multi-track. Okay, so we got multi-track, beat, and we have vocals, as you see there. All right. Now, everything that you see when it comes to the mixer, we have all of these tracks. Now, all of these tracks get summed down into mix buses. Okay, which is I have three mix buses for vocals, and then I have one mix bus for the whole beat stems, and then I have one final mix bus for the entire mix. We haven't even talked about that main fader or the main track or whatnot, or the master track or whatever the case may be, because to me that's it doesn't matter with the master track, because I created my own master track, you know what I'm saying, but I call it the sub mix. Okay, the sub mix is nothing but, you know what I'm saying, a mix bus channel, which is what the main or the master track here in Studio One. That's all it is. It ain't nothing but a bus track, and everything gets summed down into this sub mix track, which is right here in red. Okay, this sub mix track gets all of the individual tracks, all your bus tracks, all your effect sends and returns, and all of that. Every track gets summed into this sub mix. Okay, and from there we can kind of control the levels and what it does for as peak, RMS, and monitor our levels just to make sure that we have enough headroom before we, you know what I'm saying, render the audio and put it through mastering or whatnot. Now, as you can see on this sub mix track, the only thing I really have on here is a VU meter Okay. And then I have a compressor on here. That's it. You know what I'm saying? A bus compressor just to glue the mix together. You know what I'm saying? Let it do what it do. Okay. This VU meter is clutch. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to keep it up because I want you guys to see something. Now I'm going to go ahead and play the song right before the hook. And I want you guys to notice what this VU meter is doing. Okay. All right. So let's talk about that real quick.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talk about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill.
All right, cool deal. So you saw the VU meter kind of peaking, and the needle kind of, you know what I'm saying, punching right here in between 0 and +3. And then right here, this little LED meter wasn't going past 0. Okay. All right. Now that's a good space. It's a fairly good space. Okay. Now it's one more other thing I want you guys to see on the individual track and its meter. Okay. We're going to close out of that right there. Pay attention to this 0 right here. I'm going to play this mix again, and it's kind of, the audio's jumping because I'm, you know what I'm saying, recording this video and doing the DAW because it has a lot of processing going on as far as plugins is concerned. But I want you to pay attention to where the meter is on the 0. Let's hit play again.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing.
Okay. So with minus the audio jumping and stuff like that, you'll see that the meter is hardly going past 0. Okay. That is the peak of the meter. Okay. That's peak metering that you're seeing right there. Now, there's one more other thing that's going on in this metering, and I'm going to point it out to you guys. I'm going to play this same selection again. Look at these little white ticks right here.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill. Y'all niggas ain't real.
Okay, cool. So you see those little, see how it's falling? Okay, those little white tick marks are called VU metering. Okay, now if you were to right click in the metering section of the track, you have a choice of metering by peak metering or metering by RMS metering and also peak metering. I have it set on peak RMS because I want to see both and how they is working with my gain staging. I'm saying all of that is because the RMS leveling or the RMS metering is going to give you kind of a sense of where you need to be at. -12 is the magic number when it comes to RMS. Don't ask me why, because that's a whole nother video or whatnot. But for me, in Studio One, I figured and I found that -12 is like the sweet spot for your track to have the perfect dynamics and still have your tracks to be loud. Okay. If you follow gain staging throughout your recording and mixing process. Okay. And also making sure that your overall tracks or everything in the mix is not peaking past 0. Now you may get a couple of little reds here and there past 0, but you know what I'm saying? If you get a little couple of reds here and there and here, you okay. You know what I'm saying? You okay or whatnot. And we didn't even get any reds clipping right here. So we didn't get any red indicating while we played that hook as well. But that's an important thing because what you're doing is you're preserving dynamics in your mix. So you probably being like, well, that's okay, cool. But I'm trying to make my mix louder. Believe it or not, your mix is going to be louder. Or let's say, for instance, they're going to be at a certain level when you mix it down and mastering. When you want to make things loud, leave it to the mastering process. Don't try to make everything loud in the mix because let's just face it, you got to master the track. If you don't leave any headroom in the mixing process, what are you going to do when it comes to mastering? You know what I'm saying? When you get to the mastering process, the mastering engineer, yourself or whoever, it's not going to have any room to turn up the track if needed to. You understand what I'm saying? So if you do not allow the mix to breathe, have dynamics, what's going to happen is you're just going to flatline your mix. And what I mean by flatlining is basically having no dynamics. Okay. All right, cool deal. Now I got a piece of paper here. All right. This piece of paper I cut up on purpose right here. You see the edges and everything like that. Just imagine this is your final mix right here. Okay. When you have a limiter, what it does is it tries to catch. When you set a limiter at a certain point right here, if you look at this scissor point right here, when you have a limiter, you set it at a certain point. All you're doing is basically controlling the dynamics. Okay. All right. And when you control those dynamics, you're just catching everything that doesn't, that you don't want to clip past zero, you know what I'm saying? In the mix or whatnot. And what happens is it'll just, once you set that particular point on the limiter, it's going to basically, you know what I'm saying, kind of like keep everything at a certain level where you set your limiter or whatnot. Okay. Now you see we have all these mountaintops or whatever the case may be. Okay. So that's what a limiter basically does. Now, when you have a limiter and you got it set and everything like that, when you start bringing that threshold down, what happens is the thresholds start taking away your dynamics. So when you have these little peaks or whatnot, what you're doing is shaving off the peaks. Okay. And what you're doing is you're trying to get a consistent level for as dynamics is concerned. And what's happening with that limiter is turning up the mix as well. Okay. So let's say, for instance, this scissor is the threshold. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut straight across. I'm going to try to attempt at least whatnot. All right. Straight across. All right. We're going straight across, y'all. We're going straight across. All right. That's what we're doing. We're going straight across, y'all. Straight across. Now, if you look at this paper now, okay, we didn't cut out minus this little thing right here, man. It's still, let's get this little part right here. There you go. All right, hold on. Let me do this right here. Bam, there it is. So y'all remember we had all those edges? Guess what? We didn't flatline it. So guess what? When you take a limiter and you go down on the threshold, what you're doing is you're shaving off the dynamics. Okay. You're starting to not preserve the dynamics in your mix. And this is what happens. You may have a little high point here, but for the most part, you're flatlining that. So just imagine your kick. Just imagine your kick, your snare, a particular vocal or a particular guitar or a particular instrument. When it hits to a certain point on that threshold in the limiter, it starts to flatline and it doesn't have any more dynamics. You cut off all the dynamics with the threshold and the automatic gain compensation and everything like what a limiter does. Okay. Most people, they'll drive a limiter to make it louder. Now, what we just did, okay, let's just imagine that you had a limiter and you have it set at -4 on the threshold. Okay. This is what it is. So when you have that threshold get set, of course, it's going to do gain reduction and everything like that. And this is just a visual representation of a waveform. Okay. So now when it starts compressing, okay, and you start getting gain reduction, and what the limiter is also going to do, or if you have manual gain compensation or far as manually turning up the compressor, all you're doing is just turning up the wave file. That's all you're doing. So it's compressing and you're just turning everything up. Okay. But you're still going to have this though. You see what I'm saying? So you're going to lose dynamics, but the sound or the overall mix is just going to get turned up. But what you're going to lose punch. You're going to lose some clarity and you're going to lose a couple of things. But what you're doing is squeezing everything together and then raising it up. That's what you're doing. So again, your dynamic range could be here. But then when you put that threshold on there, on that limiter, you start to squish everything together. And as you're squishing it together, you're raising up the level as well. And so you may squeeze out some energy. You know what I'm saying? You may squeeze and make it seem like it's louder, but you're losing dynamic range. And then when you go to the club or you take it to the car, what happens? Well, it's like, man, I can't hear the kick anymore. Dang, brother, like I can't hear the snare. Man, the vocal, it don't seem like it's popping out the speakers. Yeah, because you hit that limiter too hard. That's what happened, man. You hit the limiter too hard. Limiter. You hit the limiter too hard. Now, a lot of people, this is what they do. They hit that limiter too hard, and then this is what happens. You see what I'm saying? When you hit the limiter too hard, y'all remember all those mountain ridges that we had on the piece of paper? This is what you get when you hit the limiter too hard. You have no dynamics, none. And so all you got is a piece of wave or a piece of audio that's turned up, and you ain't got no kicks. See all those little mountain ridges that you saw on the paper? One of them was a kick, probably one of them was a clap, your snares and everything like that, a vocal, but now everything got compressed and turned up. But you lost dynamics. Yeah, it may sound loud, but you lost dynamics. Let's talk about that, and I'm gonna show you guys in a plugin, okay? All right, so basically what I got up here right now is the adapter, AB Metric. This is a plugin that I use faithfully when I'm mixing and also mastering as well. Now, what we're going to do is we're in the dynamic section. Now, this plugin is pretty cool because you can check out, you can reference different mixes that you did in the past or a commercial mix and try to set the levels audibly, you know what I'm saying, with what you're working with in your current section. Now, this is a frequency spectrum right here. This is kind of like a correlation metering, stereo imager, just to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, you're not so wide on your stereo image or whatnot, or you're not too narrow or whatever the case may be. You have a loudness meter right here, which we'll talk about that here coming up here pretty soon. And then dynamics right here. This is the screen I want to talk about. This is kind of like a dynamic range. I don't know if you guys can really see this right here, but I'm gonna zoom in real quick. This right here is this visual representation is exactly what I did with the piece of paper right here. You know what I'm saying? As far as cutting off everything. And then, you know what I'm saying, you just flatlining your audio, you know what I'm saying, because you're not preserving dynamics. Okay. So when you use that limiter and you hit it hard, thinking that you're making your mixes loud, I don't think you do there, buddy, and stuff like that. So, you know, this is basically the dynamic metering is going to let you know where you need to be at. Now, let's do this real quick. We're going to go ahead and this particular plugin is real special because it has target dynamic ranges that you can reference off of. When we hit this drop down button or this drop down tab, we can see that if you want a mix that has a lot of dynamics or high dynamics, you can set it there. You'll see this red line jumps up. If you want it kind of like, you know, your normal dynamic range, 12 dB is where you need to be at. Remember the correlation. -12 on that RMS level on the submix, and then we have dynamic range at 12 dB. Okay, you see the red line, it drops down. This is where things starts to get interesting. Competitive means what the commercial releases, you know, like let's say Moneybagg, Yo Gotti, you know what I'm saying, what other artists out there, J. Cole's of the world, the Kendrick Lamar's of the world, all their records, they have a competitive dynamic range that this particular plugin saying, hey, you want your mix to have a competitive dynamic range, choose this 9 dB. You notice that our red line is getting it's starting to drop down to the bottom. Okay. If you want your mix to be loud, boom, 7 dB of dynamic range. You'll see this red line is getting lower. Okay. You want to squash your mix just for the hell of it? 5 dB of dynamic range. This is when you start getting into uncharted territory. You're already in uncharted territory when you're at 7 dB of dynamic range. FYI. You know what I'm saying? Then when you get to crushed, you ain't got shit. You know what I'm saying? You might as well just find you another hobby. Real talk. You know what I'm saying? We're going to keep this at competitive. Okay. Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's keep it at dynamic. Okay. We're going to put it back on dynamic, 12 dB of dynamic range. Your dynamic range, believe it or not, folks, is going to be this. My top hand is 0 and my bottom hand is your mix. Okay. In between there is the dynamic range. Everything here, 0, the top of my hand, and then the bottom of my hand is your mix. when you start using that limiter and you start squeezing all of that energy and start losing dynamics, you're shortening your dynamic range. Just to give you a visual representation, but this plugin is gonna do what I'm talking about right here. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna move this plugin off to the side. I'm gonna disable this mix bus compressor that I have on the sub mix. I'm gonna turn it off and I'm gonna play the track for you. Okay, just to give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about. Let's hit play. Let's make sure. Okay, there it is. Just making sure the plugin was on.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill. Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit, you just don't steal. Y'all be so flossing. Acting like you bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real. Y'all niggas ain't real.
All right, cool deal. So you can see what we played right here on this time scale, what we just played. So this plugin is showing you that we were right around when the song got quiet, we had more of a higher dynamic range right here. But when the song started playing, when that hook popped in, guess what? Our dynamic range jumped down from past 18 dB all the way down to like 13, all the way down, dipping past 12 dB of dynamic range. Okay, so this visual representation that you're seeing is your dynamic range. Okay, so right now with the mix, without a mix bus processor or a bus compressor, whatnot, we're actually in target range. 12 dB of range, we good. You know what I'm saying? We straight. You know what I'm saying? We have dynamics in the mix. So that's in telling me that, you know, I can go take this mix right now, bounce it out, go put it in the club, tell the DJ, jam that shit, and he's going to have room to turn up his DJ console. And guess what? Those speakers going to talk. You feel what I'm saying? Those speakers going to talk. They're going to do what they do. You feel me? Okay. Now, let's go ahead and turn on the compressor. All right, let's pull it up. We're going to turn on the compressor. All right. Now, you're going to see a difference. See how this is right there? You're going to see a difference once that beat come on and that music, and let's see where the dynamic range sits at.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill. Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit, you just don't steal. Y'all be so flossing. Acting like you bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real. Y'all niggas ain't real.
All right, cool deal. So we kind of like in the same target range a little bit. You know what I'm saying? The compressor kind of, you know what I'm saying, the way it's working is that, you know what I'm saying, I got a little bit of compression going on, no more than -1 or -2 on the compression. And then I got some makeup gain going on, and the dry wet mix knob is set at 55%. So we got a little bit of compression going on. That's letting me know that this compressor actually kind of turned down the volume just a little bit, or whatever the case may be. All right. Now, what that's telling is that we still have very good dynamic range until we get to a limiter right here. All right. So we got a limiter right here. Stock limiter out of Personas. You know what I'm saying? The limiter 2, the second version. Okay. So what we're going to do is choose a preset. Okay. Let's do 0 dB limiting. All right. All right. We got 0 dB limiting, and I'm going to put it on a fast attack and an all the way fast release. That's my settings. I want a very, very fast attack, and I want a very, very fast release. I want that signal to get in and out of the limiter as fast as possible, while still not allowing the mix to clip or peak past 0. Okay. All right. So let's play this with the limiter on.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing.
It's getting interesting. It's getting interesting. Check this out. It's getting interesting. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Y'all be so flossing, acting like you bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real. Y'all niggas ain't.
All right, now let's talk about it. Oh yeah, it's getting interesting. Oh, I sure. I had somebody tell me, oh man, you don't know. I bet, man. I'm not gonna be petty today, man. We're not gonna do that. All right, look at the meter. The meters don't lie, right? We engaged the limiter. This limiter right here. Okay, we're gonna move it right there. Okay, gonna scoot this over there right quick. All right, let's get this proportion. You see this limiter? Okay, we just turned it on. We did not adjust the threshold. The threshold is at 0. The ceiling is at 0. The gain is at 0. All we did is have a fast attack and a fast release. Look at the difference in the dynamic range. The dynamic range has dipped because we just put on the limiter. Automatically, the limiter started doing its job for its squeezing those dynamics in, whatnot, and somewhat giving an appearance that your mix is a little bit louder. Again, you lost dynamics. Okay, so right now, when that first beat dropped, like and everything came in, you had a loss of dynamic range. So your target range of at 12 dB of dynamic range just dipped down. It dipped down around about 11. Okay, so you had a dB of loss, even with the plugin engaged with no type of controls. Okay, so you lost a dB of dynamic range. Let's set our threshold. Let's get our threshold at -1. Okay, and I want you to pay attention to it's a lot of things I want you to pay attention to. The gain reduction on the limiter, the threshold where I have it at, and what this meter is doing. And let's play our selection again. Let's go.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill. Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit.
Oh, it's getting interesting. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Y'all really ain't real.
Yeah. All right, cool deal. Judging from the gain reduction on the limiter, we maxed out at -3 dB. It peaked at gain reduction at around -3 dB, a gain reduction on the limiter at a -1 dB threshold. Okay, you look at this limiter. Oh, we peaked all the way down like 10 dB a hit. 10 dB of dynamic range. Very interesting. Notice the pattern. This first one, we did not have no processing on the sub mix. Then we went to mix bus processing, kind of the same. Then we turned the limiter on with no type of limiting, and we already had a -dB, a gain reduction. Then we started doing some type of gain reduction or limiting by adjusting the threshold by a -dB, and then you're starting to see the pattern. Okay, we're starting to lose dynamic range. We already dipped down into 10 dB of dynamic range. All right. So what's happening is your mix is starting to be squeezed more and more and more when you start applying more and more of limiting. Okay. See, there's a lot of people out there, especially in the rap and urban music community, and they're wondering why their mixes don't translate in the club. Limiting is probably the #1 reason. All right. Let's go ahead and adjust our threshold accordingly. Now, I'm not going to set it to a fixed setting on the threshold. I'm adjust it to taste. Now, I'm going to try to get this limiter cranking and reducing at around about -4, -5, and do a little gain compensation on the limiter. And y'all just pay attention to what this meter doing, this dynamic range meter doing. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get busy.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real. Think y'all
right, cool deal. I maxed that bitch out at -6. As I was adjusting that threshold, automatic gain compensation was doing what it's doing. You heard the mix get louder. So everybody in the studio like, yeah, that bitch jam. Yeah, that motherfucker jam. Whole time, it's probably not jamming. Because when you when you bounce it out, what's gonna happen is when you put that bitch on Spotify, it ain't gonna be hitting like it's hitting in the studio because your monitors are, you know what I'm saying, they built to sound good. DJ speakers ain't built to sound good. What comes in is what's gonna come out. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I adjusted that threshold, and we only added -3 dB. We only added like 3 dB of gain reduction. So our threshold is at -4. We beforehand, this one right here, that was at -1 on the threshold knob. This right here is at -4 on the threshold knob. And we had a negative maxing out, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't all the way at -6 dB on the gain reduction, but it was averaging anywhere between 4 to 6 dB a gain reduction. The mix got louder, but what happened is we lost dynamics. Okay. So you can see right now we dipped well below 9. We actually hit 8 dB of dynamic range. This is uncharted territory. I told y'all when you get to loud is at 7 dB. Okay. So if that's where you want to be at, okay, you're in the sweet spot. Where I have this threshold set at on the limiter, it's kind of like, okay, you need to leave it alone because once you start getting past that, your mix is going to sound like shit. Okay. Let's play this at our current settings where we have it right now, just to see where we at and how the mix sound once I bypass the limiter and bring it back on. Let's go ahead.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talking about nothing but you.
All right, we're gonna bypass.
So real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real. Think y'all should
bypass.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit. You just don't steal. Y'all be so flossing. Acting like you bossing.
Bypass.
Yeah. Y'all really ain't
I'm
real.
bypass.
Y'all niggas ain't real.
All right, I did all that bypassing and unbypassing because I wanted you guys to see the volume difference when the limiter is not on versus when the limiter is on. Now, most people, they just want their shit to be loud. You know what I'm saying? Have a lot of clients, a lot of rap artists saying, man, that bitch ain't loud enough. It ain't loud enough. It ain't loud enough. Don't ever listen to an artist. I'm keeping it 100 with you. I don't give a damn. And that's how I'll probably lose clients because you know what I'm saying? At the same time, if you're mixing your own stuff, somebody else's stuff or whatnot, you have to maintain your integrity of the actual record. You know what I'm saying? Just because somebody wanted to be loud doesn't mean that's the right thing to do, if that makes any sense. Because when you add that limiter on there just to make it loud, shit, you might as well turn up the goddamn submix. That's loud. You know what I'm saying? But if you put a limiter on there and you start cranking up that limiter, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have some fucked up levels. You understand what I'm saying? You're going to have some fucked up levels. Okay? And I say levels, what I mean by that is you're going to have a fucked up mix, basically. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to lose dynamics. Okay? So when I take this mix at where is that right now and I go put that in the club versus the unlimited version, okay, with no limiter, yeah, it's gonna sound quiet, but what that allows is the DJ or in your car, you could turn it up a little bit and your mix is still gonna punch or whatnot. Now, it's probably gonna be some naysayers in the comments and everything like that. Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about it, okay? All right, so basically you can see on this last graphical representation that when we unbypassed it and brought back the limiter, you can see the jump in what we got going on here. But you can see right here, this is the part when it jumped up, that's the unbypass versus right down here is the, this peak right here is the bypass version and the peaks down here is the unbypassed version. So you can see there is clearly 13 to 8. We have a 5 dB jump right up in here. That's on some nerd shit, okay? All right, so That's just letting you know, man, like, yeah, it could be a vibe, but at the same time, it's about the quality of your mix. You know what I'm saying? Far as, do you really want to lose the kick drum? Do you really want to lose the snare, the vocal, that important instrument, the guitar, you know what I'm saying, the synth sound or whatever the case may be, because y'all want it loud? Or you want to preserve the dynamics and just turn up the sub mix and just be done, or lead the mastering engineer the proper way to turn it up in the finished mix version? Because the mix version is the finished product that's really just getting icing on the cake. It's getting a little sweetening. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Because that person who's ever mastering the mix audio file is already done. But what you're doing is you're just messing up the song. You see what I'm saying? So basically, with that limiter on, this is what you get right here. You lose dynamics. All right. And you even see on this meter right here, it'll let you know, like, hey, you know what I'm saying? You're starting to dip below the target threshold. Even this red line is letting you know, hey, this right here is the happy medium. You're doing too much limiting here. Okay. All right. So we're going to adjust this to loud, and that's at 7 dB. So with that limiter on there, if we wanted to crank it, I'm going to show y'all what 7 dB a dynamic range sound like. Let's get busy. Close your ears.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me, how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step
Oh, we ain't even there yet. Hold on a second.
Y'all should chill. Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking
there we
about
go.
that shit you just gon' steal. Y'all be so flossing. Acting like you
Push it a little
bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Hang around like a third wheel. Behind the crowd, taking selfies. Playing bitch, what you tell me? Why you gotta be a fuck boy?
All right, cool. I just wanted to play it and show you guys and whatnot. Now you hear the mix, it's starting to become unbearably, unpleasingly, unenjoyably not listening. It's a bad listening experience, okay? We went from -4 to -6 on the threshold. So we basically, you know what I'm saying, limited, and basically another 2 dB on the limiter, and we jumped down to -7, touching -7 on the dynamic range target. Okay, so when we bring it back to dynamics, boom, you see the difference now. You see all of that in red is letting you know, like, okay, you fucking up. You know what I'm saying? But in competitiveness, far as a commercial sound, that's where you want to be at, around 9. So if we bring this limiter back at I think it was like -4, that's basically where, you know what I'm saying, the target range a lot of your commercial songs are being released at on Spotify. Play it one more time at -4 on the threshold.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me, how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real.
All right, cool deal. So I just had to stop that right there. My computer's starting to act crazy and whatnot while I'm recording. But that's just to give you a little idea of what the limiter is doing. This limiter is basically, you know what I'm saying, it's messing up your dynamics. You're starting to lose. Now let's turn the limiter off, and we're gonna play this song again. Now y'all heard it plenty of times with that limiter on there. Now you're gonna sound how you're gonna hear how the mix is gonna sound a little bit cleaner.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me, how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill.
All right, I'm gonna stop it right there. Notice the difference. All of this right here, you know what I'm saying, is a part of limiting. You see what I'm saying? Let me put it back on 12. All right, cool. So this is 12. Everything below 12, right here at 12, this little part right here, this was all limiting. You see what I'm saying? Now we turned the limiter off right about here and stuff like that. Now, if you wanted to make that louder, hell, you know what I'm saying, just for cruising and vibing purposes, and you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna listen to it on my way home purposes, just turn up the sub mix or your main output track. Check this out.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me, how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in. Don't step to this real.
I want you to pay attention to my master track.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit.
Now look at my meter on the dynamic range meter.
Acting like you bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Hang around.
All right, cool deal. So let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? We turned up the master track. We bumped that up 1 dB. Yeah, we bumped it up 1 dB. I have it on a it's matter of fact an automation lane right here, so it's jumping down to 0 every time I hit play. But we had it at 1 dB. We turned it up 1 dB, and it appeared louder. And guess what? It still had dynamic range, folks. It still had dynamic range, even when we took the limiter off. Okay, we still had dynamic range when we just turned up the sub mix or all of your tracks. Just select all your tracks and turn that shit up. Let me say that loosely. Select what tracks that need to be turned up. Regardless, we just turned up the mix basically, and we still had -12 dB range, and it still was the same type of volume, but we did not lose dynamics. When you turn that limiter on, folks, when you turn the limiter on, this is what's gonna happen. Check this out. It may sound louder.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm
It doesn't sound the same. It sounds like something is being squished. Versus when you turn it up, turn the limiter off. Watch, you gonna turn it up.
Y'all niggas ain't real.
That's 1 dB. We clipping just a little bit though.
But you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm
If you heard that, you know what I'm saying, it still sound like the track got louder, but we still retain our dynamics for us, the kicks and, you know what I'm saying, the vocals and everything like that. It didn't seem like it was being squished or whatnot. If you don't have the AB metric plugin, this is a really, really good tool because it'll let you know, damn, you know what I'm saying, I'm losing dynamic range. This mix may not come out pronunciated, if that makes any sense, because you're going to start losing the kick. It's not going to be there or whatnot, you know what I'm saying, or whatever the case may be. Now, what I'm showing you tonight is basically not a, you know what I'm saying, you need to do this, and the third. You do what the fuck you want to do. You see what I'm saying? But I know when I work and I do my mixes all the way through the mastering process, I'll try to make sure that I stay around the 10 dB range and stuff like that, which is competitive. You know what I'm saying? I try to stay around that competitive range of 9 dB a headroom, or, you know what I'm saying, 9 dB a headroom or -10 on the LUFS metering. Okay. And what that entails and what that does is just make sure that, you know what I'm saying, the mix is at a loud point where it's going to translate real well on all digital streaming platforms. Okay. Now, if I wanted to make that mix louder, I'm going to turn off the limiter. Okay. We ain't got no limiter on. If I want to make the mix louder, all I got to do is use something like a mix tool, right? Okay. So I'm going to turn the mix tool on. It's set at 0. Okay. We're going to bring up this plugin right here. Again, we have a no limiter. We're going to play the track. All I'm going to do is just turn this mix tool up, which is the first plugin inserted on that main track. We're going to turn this up, and you're going to just hear the difference and still see where I'm at on the loudness. And I'm going to set this at competitive level, -10. Okay. -10 is going to be right here where it starts to get in the red. All right. So we're going to jump back and forth between the dynamic range meter and the loudness meter while we just turn up the volume. Not limiting. We're just going to turn up the volume. Check this out.
Y'all niggas ain't real.
All right.
How does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in.
I'm looking at my short-term metering. All right, we good?
Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit you just just gon' steal. Y'all be so flossy, acting like you bossy. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really
I'm gonna play the whole song through.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Hang around like a third wheel behind the crowd.
Got it at competitive at 9 dB.
What you tell me? Why you gotta be a fuck boy? Keep it real, don't steal the joy. We out here making money, make it rain while it's sunny.
So let's bring this down
that loyalty
a little bit.
Work, get the royalties. Looking at the top spot. Work hard, don't stop. Haters, yeah, they be looking. Walk around, they crooked. Stealing everybody ideas.
Gonna bring it down just a little bit.
That's what it is. Gotta watch these fake niggas. Go ahead, flex on them hoes. Keep grinding, ain't get the bag.
Look at my numbers. I'm right at -10, right?
No matter what it takes. Cut the grass and see the snakes. Move around, stay silent. Big moves like a giant.
All right, the hook is gonna come back in. That's the verse.
Fuck how you feel.
Same niggas that don't commit. Yeah, I'm in my own zone. Everything I own. Turn my dreams into passion. Said fucking make it happen, dirty bitch.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Tell me how does it feel? Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing.
So this is our competitive dynamic range at 9 dB. We at 12. We're gonna turn the mix tool off.
Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit, you just gon' steal. Y'all be so flossing, acting like you bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real.
Let's run that hook one more time. I was messing up right here. Gonna run that one more time.
Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit, you just gon' steal.
All right, turn it on.
So flossing, acting like you bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real.
And you'll see this little box, it kind of switches from dynamic to competitive range. Play that one more time.
Niggas ain't real. Slow down on the
Our LUFS
real.
meters.
I ain't really talking about that shit, you just gon' steal. Y'all be so flossing.
We're target,
acting like
right
you
on point.
bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real.
All right, cool deal. This one didn't kick in just yet. It takes a while for this to kick in, but we're averaging, you know what I'm saying, like around about, you know what I'm saying, 12 and 11 of dynamic range versus if we turn that limiter on just to get the same sound, you know what I'm saying, it's going to sound different. All right. So let's do that real quick. We're going to go ahead and collapse that. We're going to go and bring up that stock plugin, something that we could work with for as the the processing is concerned on my computer. All right. So this is the plugin again. All right. We're going to bring it back right there. 0 dB of limiting. Fast attack. All right, here we go. Check this out. I'm gonna put this on -4, just to show you guys. Limiters really kind of fuck your shit up. All right, listen to the sound quality and listen to what we're doing.
Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in, don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill. Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit, you just gon' steal. Y'all be so flossing. Acting like
Let me set this limiter to the right point.
talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in, don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill. Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit, you just gon' steal. Y'all be so flossing, acting like you bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real.
All right, I hope y'all was listening to the mix. Now I'm gonna turn that limiter off, and then we're gonna turn the mix tool on.
Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in, don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill. Y'all niggas ain't
Gonna turn the mix tool off.
Slow down on the real.
Turn the
Ain't
limiter
really
on.
talking about that shit, you just gon' steal. Y'all be so flossing, acting like you bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real. Talking about nothing, but you claim you so real. Man, cause I'm flossing. When it can't take a loss in, don't step to this real. Think y'all should chill. Y'all niggas ain't real. Slow down on the real. I ain't really talking about that shit, you just gon' steal. Y'all be so flossing, acting like you bossing. Show 'em what it is. Y'all really ain't real.
All right, cool deal, man. So that's basically, you know what I'm saying, what we kind of went over, you know what I'm saying, turning up the volume versus using limiting. Yes, they both gonna, have a volume increase. But what's really important, dynamics or just making it loud? I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I've been practicing with this technique for a while, for some years. And it has won things over for me. I have so many clients that go to a club for a performance, or they get their stuff played on, digital distribution, and they like the sound. Everything is clear. They can hear all the different instruments. The reason why they say they can hear, oh man, I can hear everything. I can hear the vocals, I can hear the panning. That's because it's not limited. Once you start limiting everything and you start squeezing all that information, and it's just like right here, there's nowhere for it to go but to turn it up, and then you just turned up bad information. You see what I'm saying? So that's just what it is right there, man. Talking about limiting and how it affects your dynamic range. Hey, if you want dynamic range in your mixes and stuff like that, don't use a limiter on your main track and stuff like that. Let a mastering engineer deal with that, because all he's going to do is use that limiter to make sure that the mix doesn't clip. Whole time, that mastering engineer is just going to take your wave file and just turn that up. Just turn the volume up. Just turn the gain on that wave file up. EQ, do a little mix bus compression, do a little exciting, little multi-band dynamics, just to control the low end or the low mids or the high mids or the highs. And that's it. He's gonna compress. Probably not gonna do that much limited. I'll let that be up to y'all, man. Hey, this has been your boy Super Mario. You ain't been in the yo, man. I hope this video serves you well, and I hope you have a better understanding of what a limiter does, how it affects your dynamic range in your mix, and everything like that, man. Until next time, man, y'all go ahead, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Y'all know how to work the YouTube app. Thank you for watching, and we out of here, man. Peace.